Welcome back to the Level Up Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Miller with eXp Realty. And today I'm joined by one of the best people that I've come across in this industry, someone that's really involved in the community and someone I'm just privileged to be joined by. So everybody, please welcome Dilek Hanedar. The crowd is going crazy. There's so many people. I just had to hold them back.
You actually have to have like that cheer up machine, you know? Like
Yeah, I know. I actually do.
You don't?
I
God,
do.
I'm not surprised.
I do, but we just didn't hit it. I'm sorry. It would be too loud with all the people. But welcome. Thank you for coming
thank
today.
you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this. You know, this is my only second podcast, but I really love how natural, you know, those questions come, because sometimes it's so hard to like be in front of the camera and just have that text that you have in front of you and just talk.
Right. Yeah.
So this is just so much easier.
Yeah.
Much more authentic.
Well, it is. And I don't know. I've been doing this for a while now, and I always just find it being like so therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just like, when do you get to connect with people without distractions? Like it's really almost impossible.
True.
And
But
then,
it's smart that you use it for business too.
yeah, for sure. For sure. But first off, I don't want to like bury the lead. You got me cookies.
Yes.
So crumble cookies. These
Obviously.
look fantastic. I'm
Yeah.
probably going to be eating these as soon as we're done. So
You should.
thank you very, very much.
You're very welcome.
Really appreciate
You
it.
know.
I brought you nothing. So
I was hoping for kittens, but that's fine. Yeah.
I'm the worst podcast host ever. She gives me gifts. I'm like,
There's not
hey,
even water, just that you guys
let
bring
me
your own
get the
water.
camera set up and you just sit here. That's basically what I did. So, but thank you very much. And that's, again, no surprise.
Mm-hmm.
That's who you are, which is awesome. And in the short time I've gotten to know you, I would have expected nothing less. But for those of you that are watching that don't know Dilek, why don't you look right at that camera and introduce yourself to the world?
So Tyler told me, you know, a couple of things that he wants to know for sure, especially being in the real estate industry. So I'm Dilek Hanedar. I work with Engel Volkers, Minneapolis Blaine. I'm probably one of the only ones who can actually pronounce it.
Wait, let me try. Say it again.
Engel Volkers.
Oh my gosh. Engel and Volkers.
Yes, no.
I always say Engel and Volkers. I don't say that.
Yeah. A lot of people say Engel Volkers.
Engel and Volkers. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's like the white American thing to do.
Well, yes.
Engel
They do
and
that for
Volkers.
everything. It's true.
So you told me before we got on what your maiden name was.
Yes.
So now, did you just join Engel and Volkers to have the most hard to say real estate combo of all time? So look in the camera and say what, if you didn't get married to your amazing husband, what it would have sounded like.
It would have sounded Dilek Hanedar, and I work for Engel Volkers.
Right there, people are like, I don't even know what you just said.
I know, right? You swear at me.
Yeah, did you just swear?
But
What did you call me?
the interesting thing, it already says so much about me, right? So
Yeah.
you can already tell that I have a diverse background. Here.
Very diverse, yeah.
I mean, I do not look German. Why does this girl speak German?
Right.
So I was actually born and raised there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's part of me. That's part of me, having all those cultures in there. I actually learned 5 languages in school. I mean,
That's amazing.
here it's something special, to be honest. But
There it's
average, to be honest.
it's like 10. That 10 is
Well,
like special.
no, but everyone speaks a couple, because all of them have parents, and then you
Yeah.
learn 2 foreign languages to graduate high school.
Okay.
And I wanted to be different, so I chose Japanese on top of that after that, which is so dumb now, because look what I can do.
Yeah,
I cannot even impress my kids. That's
Yeah.
the other sad part, because they asked their dad, who was once in Japan for like a day.
Yeah. Tell us about Japan, Dad. You're like, I know how to speak it. Like, no, tell us about the day in Japan, Dad.
I mean, they're 13 and 8, but
Yeah.
you know, I have to tell you that story. We just recently went back in the summer, and I was picking up my old folders where I was literally translating economic newspapers from Japanese into English. And
Yeah.
I told them, and I was like, kids, look, this is how good I knew, Japanese. And my husband's just sitting there and laughing. He's like, I can't believe you're still trying to convince
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. They
like, why
don't
you-
care. You can say Engel and Volkers better than anyone else. So
Yeah.
you have that.
Yes.
And then for those of you that don't know, she's also a badass when it comes to real estate. You do quite well. You sell good
Yeah.
amount of houses,
Yeah.
and someone that should definitely be trusted in this industry for advice. And I mean, you've been doing this for 4 years now.
Yes, which is really interesting because, people think that it really has to do with how many years you're in the industry, but that's
Right.
not really the
No.
point, right? I think my advantage is that I love learning. I love learning. I like to know everything behind. I want to know how it functions. I don't want to just know like this is the rule, I want to know why. Why
Right.
is this the rule? Why does it make sense? Why doesn't it make sense?
Right.
But to be honest, a lot of those things don't make sense, right? And then
Right.
they change it up again.
I know. Yeah, it's like, that doesn't seem to make sense, but okay. And then like 6 months later, it's different. You're like,
Exactly.
that still doesn't make sense. Like, that's just
Exactly.
real estate.
Exactly.
What other languages do you speak? So German, Japanese,
So
English.
I was raised with German and Turkish.
Okay.
So that's where my heritage comes from, Turkish background. And then we learned English and French in school, and then I learned Japanese.
Okay. Let's do a quick exercise.
Okay.
So I want to hear the sentence, I sell houses at Engel Volkers
Yeah.
in all your different languages. So let's go. Let's try it. You can do it.
No.
Japanese,
no.
you can't say.
No, I
sell-
have to remember what that one word means. I sell houses. No, I don't.
No. Okay. What's a sentence you can say in all of them? I just want to like hear the differences.
What my name is.
Okay. Say.
Oh,
say.
let me say something Japanese. All the other
Yeah.
languages are so common, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I say, Watashi wa Dilek moshimasu. Dozo yoroshiku onegai shimasu.
So what did you just say?
I said,
You said,
there's-
Tyler, this is awful.
Yes, I said,
Get a
Tyler.
better hobby.
Yes, it's like, Tyler, why are you trying to put people on the spot?
Yeah, this is literally no one's gonna watch this. All in Japanese. It was really good.
Yeah.
No, okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, gosh,
With languages though, you can't forget. Even if someone learned a language, the sad part about it is if you don't speak it, you completely
Totally.
forget all of them. And the last time I've spoken Japanese was 15 years ago, right? One thing you don't forget though is the culture, the things that you learn there, the way they approach things, and yeah, those
and
things.
in my experience, I find it easier to when someone speaks it to you, and so I studied Spanish in high school. If someone speaks in Spanish, I can like kind of follow it, but if I had to articulate it myself, no shot.
I
I can say words. You know
But
what I mean?
think that's also nature of human being, right?
Right.
That's how we communicate with little kids.
Right.
They're even nonverbal. We still know what they want, right?
Right.
Things they can't have.
Yeah.
But still.
So really quick, fun story. I said I was going to save this, and I think you know this, but so my daughter, I went to Centennial Centennial Elementary, basically, Blue Heron, for 1 year, and happened to be paired up in a class with your son, Hamza.
Hamza, yeah.
Hamza. And so this morning I was leaving the house, and I looked at Ariana. She's sitting at the table, and I'm like, hey, guess what? She's like, what? I'm like, you remember Hamza? Because my daughter had like a little crush on Hamza, even though she'll never say it. And anyways, I just wanted to like kind of mess with her this morning. I'm like, I'm going to go see Hamza's mom today. And I'm going to tell Hamza's mom that you say hi to Hamza. And she's like, no, don't, Dad, don't do that. And I'm like, well, remember why this is so funny is I think I told you this, she drew a picture one day of like, it was supposed to be a picture of the whole class. And it was her and Hamza holding hands.
Oh my God.
And then there was like 4 other kids like drawing.
So that's the reason you took her out of class, right?
Yeah, Hamza was,
He's already
causing some
getting too
problems
big.
at home. Yeah. She couldn't focus in school, you know.
It's funny because I actually found like 5 or 6 like letters or like colorings,
Yeah.
I think it was from her. And
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Hamza is like the messiest kid, so it's just in his folder,
Yeah.
they all collected in there. But he still does remember her, so she
Yeah.
must have been really, really nice.
And I
to
don't
have.
think they had like, I don't think she had a crush on him necessarily, but
They're
I think
7.
I-
I don't think there's
well, never
really a
know.
crush.
But I just think like she just enjoyed hanging out with them, and no surprise, look at his mom.
That's something that I love hearing because as a parent, you only see how they misbehave at
Yeah.
home,
Yep.
which is actually a good sign because it shows that they're comfortable with you and they feel safe, right? But
Yep.
you don't know if any of what you teach them actually ended up, in their brain.
Right, right.
So I love that they are actually, because it's so important to me to be kind to other people,
Right.
to be respecting, accepting, and funny. Hamza is funny. Oh my God.
That's
you
probably why
have
she
to
liked
imagine.
him.
Hamza
Yeah.
is super funny. Just yesterday when we went to Crumble to pick up some
Yeah.
cookies, and I posted that too, he's like, they always display those cookies, right? What's in the
Yeah.
menu. And then there's one cookie is like half missing. It's like, Mom, someone let their intrusive thought win a cookie.
That honestly, my kids are funny too. It's like they're like getting clever. The
Yeah.
age is fun because it's
Yes.
like they didn't understand sarcasm, so they were just kind of like mean, and now they're starting to say some funny stuff.
Yes.
Where I'm like, I like she'll say something and she'll like kind of make fun of her brother, and so his feelings are hurt, but it's hilarious,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm sorry, like Jameson, it was funny.
But it's good because then you already toughen them up for the world.
For sure,
right?
yeah.
Because the world is mean, trust me.
Oh yeah, I know.
So you gotta make sure that they're nice and kind, but they're not dumb,
Yeah.
and naive. So
But anyways, I just thought I'd share that about
Yeah.
my daughter.
Yeah.
She's funny. So I was trying to find the photo so I could bring it in again and be like, here it is.
here they are.
But
you know what the best part is actually? That this is it's a big school, but not that big.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually put all the realtor kids in one class because
Yeah.
Alex.
Alex Murray
was in there
with
too. They're in the
Max,
class
yep.
too again.
Okay.
right? But it was like, oh my God, this is so
Just
funny.
all
of
realtors.
those-
Yeah. And it's funny because the teacher,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember her name now, but she
Mrs. Schumann.
came up to me and she's like, I was talking to her. I'm like, yeah, I sell real estate. She's like, yeah, I worked with your team.
Oh, that is fun.
And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, thank you. Like
Yeah.
I think she had worked with Alex actually.
yeah.
But this was like back when Alex was on my team. And it's just that's like so cool to hear where I'm like, oh, I didn't even like realize our team helped you, but she had good things to say. And,
Yeah.
you know,
I love that too when you hear that people actually hear about you, right? Because
Right.
a lot of times it's either really bad and it can't be,
Yeah.
and then or it's really good.
yeah, someone at church last night, they were like, they saw like my hat. I was wearing my Tyler Miller team hat. And she's like, hey, I was like, hey, I'm Tyler. She's like, hi. And then the friend that introduced us, like, yeah, he sells real estate or whatever. And she's like, oh, yeah. And she looked at my hat. She's like, oh, I've definitely seen your sign around. I've heard of you.
Yeah.
But then like that was it. There wasn't like good or bad. And I'm like,
Yes.
was it good?
I mean, to be honest though, people, if they hear that you're a realtor in this,
Yeah.
just generally, they always make a step back, right? And
Sometime. I mean,
I felt like it was more at the beginning, but now since I'm more confident and I know exactly what the industry is like, I know exactly that I never really mentioned, but I'm not a secret agent, right? In order
Yeah.
to be successful, people have to know what you're doing.
Right.
What are you actually doing?
well, there's a reason why I shook their hand and said, I'm Tyler
Yeah.
versus I'm Tyler Miller.
Yeah.
Because I'm not trying to push it on people. I think it just naturally will come out if it's needed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's a little subtlety for all you people. You don't have to push it on everyone. But I also was wearing my logo,
Yeah.
so I knew it would happen.
Which is really smart because it's kind of subtle. But
It's very subtle. Like, I'm like, oh gosh, I forgot I had it
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
I didn't though.
And it's-
Just so you
it's
guys know,
smart
I know
because
I'm wearing it.
we try to also hide the fact that we are realtors because of that reaction, right? But if you only wear it to people like, hey, they know, but I don't have to approach them, right?
Right.
So that
Yeah. And people like will joke with me because there's times I have a shirt with my logo,
Yeah.
my hat,
yeah.
and like they're like 2 logos. So I'm like, yeah, just so I don't forget my name. You know, I don't.
case
It's
I
like
take my
I
shirt
was like, hey, yeah, exactly. I might take my shirt off. You never know. It's like, hey, you noticed though.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's get to the real reason we're all here today,
Mm-hmm.
and that is because you are a specialized type of real estate agent because of your background, as we've discovered. I mean, you grew up in Germany, you speak 5 languages, but you're also really heavily involved in the Muslim culture. And one thing that when you reached out, you know, when I was like, hey, you should be on my podcast, what do you want to talk about? And I was thinking we would go into, hey, why are you such an awesome realtor? I thought it was super cool that you were like, I really want to get the word out about the fact that I think the Muslim culture just is maybe being disserviced a little bit, and that there are really good agents like yourself that are willing to educate other agents, help make that process better, and get some questions answered so that it's just an overall better experience for people in the Muslim culture. So I thought that was incredible because most people are like, I want to talk about me. You know what I mean? Like, I want to talk about my business and all that stuff. And again, it's who you are, which is awesome. But I want to give you like props for that because not many people want to, I guess, talk about other people.
I mean, Tyler, to be honest, not everyone has the chance to be just invited, right? So
Yeah.
I really feel like the last couple of years, the first 3 years especially, is more like of who are you and what's your why, right?
Yeah.
So finding your purpose and finding your motivation has a lot to do with you being authentic. And that's exactly what I try to do. I have a Muslim background. I'm born and raised in a Western country, so I know the rules, the regulations, democracy and all of the other things, right? So it's a bureaucracy. So, but it's really important that you know how to do that while you have the empathy for the culture, for the people who have diverse backgrounds.
Right.
So, and a lot of times people think that I'm doing that because I only want to service, that niche, which I love doing. Yes, I really heavily market in that area. But at the same time, I want to just, have something that I leave, a legacy. And I want to be known as someone that you can approach for questions. I want to be known as the person that tried to bridge cultures and communities and
Right.
friendships, right? So
Right.
most people, to be honest, especially in Minnesota, they have never really had contact with any Muslims, right? So,
Right.
and a lot of them, and it's, the fault is on both sides, to be honest, right? Like, you have to be also open to be approachable. And I think that's one thing I do, and I want to be known for, that, if you have questions, if you don't know anyone, if you feel silly about it, just,
Right.
let me be your first Muslim friend. That's what I always say, right?
I think it's really, really good of you to do that. I think it's really smart as well. And it's very true. Like when I think about it, I've been in the industry for 12 years full time, since I was 18. So it was at 20 years ago, I got my license. I can go through and I can think, okay, when I think of someone I'd reach out to for Spanish speaking, it'd be like John Soto, David Gutierrez. There's a few others. When I think luxury, well, I'll probably want to reach out to Lindsay or Jeff, maybe a few other people. If I want to figure out, who has the best tasting White Claw, I'd probably call myself and just, obviously I enjoy a White Claw. But it's like I don't have someone. I have a lender or two to talk to about Muslim, just niche products and things like that. But I don't really. There's not a realtor that jumps out to me as like they're kind of like the hub for all things Muslim in real estate. And so I think that that's needed. And like you were talking about, I think there's probably a little bit of a disservice to that culture.
I mean, it's there's numbers out, right? If you go to all those seminars which the Islamic lenders have, they are telling you like it's a huge billion industry with people that are totally underserved. Right? I mean, there are 2 billion Muslims in this world. I mean, the chance that you're going to come across or serve one of them in this industry is really, really big. And I'm not saying that you have to treat them differently. No. But sometimes aren't we the ones that we're saying like, hey, if you have that education, that service, how do you want to add value? How do you want to, stand out?
Right.
This is part of it, right? This is part of knowing and not being ignorant about it or just like, oh my God, I don't want to even approach it, right?
Right.
So, and there's so many resources out there right now too. And another mistake that people make, like in this industry, as I said, like right now it's so underserved, and the people who are serving in it, they are not taking the time to really give them the financial literature. They have so many options. They have so many people who come to them. There's no competition. I also feel like there's not enough service for the people.
Right.
And that's one thing that I think it's unjust, right? So I feel like I'm learning from everyone that's already been in the industry.
Yeah.
Jeff and Lindsay, Engel Volkers, like the quality they have is just so unbelievable.
Right.
So I'm taking all of that, and on top of that,
Isn't it undeniable? Isn't that their?
Say it again.
I think isn't their logo or slogan like undeniable?
Who's
Engel and Volkers.
is
I
it?
feel like I see that all the
Really?
time on their things. I could be unmistakable. That's what it is.
Yes, unmistakable.
Sorry, Lindsay.
And
I've seen it a bunch of times.
unmistakable and luxury service on all
Yeah.
price points, right?
Yeah.
Red carpet service, and that's exactly what I am. I mean, I grew up with the brand. Engel Volkers is one of, they have a brokerage in the city I was born and raised,
Yeah.
imagine.
It's a pretty big brand over
Yes.
in Germany.
Yes,
right?
so I knew long before anyone else knew, and the quality they come with. Right? So that's one thing that I absolutely love. I mean, there's a lot of, also bad things about Germans, but I can tell you one thing, their standard is really, really high, right? So their competence level, everything. And that's what I want to be. I want to be that hub that, doesn't just, have like cute bags or, cute branding. I want to be known as the resource who actually has the resource.
So in your experience, and also, I mean, it's not even experience, your life being involved in this culture. If take me as an example, as a real estate agent that maybe doesn't know a ton, I know, like I said, I have a couple lenders for Islamic financing. That's where
There's a huge difference too.
that's where my expertise
That's
stops.
it, right?
That's
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
Otherwise, I just treat everybody kind of the same with really high-end
Exactly. Perfect.
experience. But what do you think someone like myself, or maybe the rest of the industry overall, just in general, is kind of missing with delivering to like the Muslim culture for the experience that they want that might be different than what a typical American
So one
person
thing,
would want?
I already like that you know that there's a different financing option, right?
That was a big thing for me.
Yes, because a
Like-
lot of them, they feel hesitant to even tell you because they feel judged. Like, oh my God, what's the difference? Or they're just going to tell you this and that. Right?
Well, and for those of you that don't know what Islamic financing
Yes.
is, the reason that that is a thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I was told, I can't, this is like early in my career, I came across somebody that's like, I need to get financing for a house, but we don't believe in interest rates or something along those lines.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I don't know how we're going to do that. Do you have cash? They're like, no, there's ways to do it. My friends just did it. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. But after exploring, I was able to come across Islamic financing, which essentially, and you can probably explain this better than me,
Yes.
essentially it is like the lender is, do they like buy it? Buy the house for them essentially, and then
So there's a couple of differences. Okay, first of all, there's a lot of them out there which aren't really Islamic financing to begin with.
okay,
And that's something which irritates me too, because then if you compare it, you would say like, but this is exactly what we do, and I'm a
Right.
better lender that you could have used,
Right.
Because they have their shit together, because they also really communicate really bad and stuff like that,
Yes.
right? So a lot of times there's delays in closing and everything, right? So I see the critique on both sides. So there's a couple of general rules for people to decide how to decide if this is an Islamic lender.
Okay.
And it's all common sense a little bit, right? It goes back to the principle of Islam. And one of them is no interest, because a lot of times we know that people take advantage of people, so they just add a lot of interest, right? And it's not really disclosed to everyone, so they say no interest in that, okay? They don't want you to make money from money, because then the value is not what it was. It has to be tangible, right? So that's number one. And then the other thing too is that you can't sell what you don't own. So that's why a lot of times they are co-owning it with you. So they are selling back the ownership
Right.
of the house.
Right.
So essentially, the ones that I work with, they are called guidance residential, and they are, to be honest,
That's the one I know of.
yes, and they're, to be honest, the only ones that I can 100% say they are Islamic financing if you go after the principles, right? I forgot what. So that's like they own it with you. They create an LLC
Yep.
for every transaction they are having,
Okay.
right? And then number 3 is risk and loss share. Okay, so the risk, the win, the profit and the loss share, sorry.
Yeah.
The risk so the profit is you get to live in this house. I paid more for this house, but you give me money back for that in order to enjoy this house, right?
Okay.
And then you buy back the ownership, basically, right? And
Yeah.
then the loss is basically, let's say you live in an area where there is no flood zone, but all of a sudden there's a huge storm and the house is gone. Can't do anything about it. The normal lender will always tell you, I don't care. I want my money back,
Right.
Like, it's your loss, your
Right.
problem. I don't care if the insurance doesn't pay it. In this term, like guidance residential tells you, okay, it's lost for both of us. We're not going to ask them back for the money. I mean, the risk is so low, to be honest. But
Right.
with global warming,
Right.
maybe a little higher.
Yeah.
than
Yep.
before,
Never know.
right? So those are the 3 principles that have to be approached, right? Right.
Okay.
So when people say no interest, or like, oh yeah, I want to have a loan with no interest. So that's what I get, like that ignorance from the other
Right.
side, right? It's like, oh yeah, we all do that, right?
Yeah.
But it's just in order to basically, because sharing a profit or going into a business is already a principle that's already established from hundreds and hundreds of years. You have
Right.
something tangible, and that's what it comes down to.
So with the no interest part, and again, if I'm getting too in the weeds,
Yeah.
that's okay. We can look at this
No, I
later.
love that you ask
But
a bit more detail.
because okay, so the guidance, they still
Charge a percentage.
want to make money,
Yes.
right? So it's not like it's no interest, and I think the Muslim culture understands that too. It's not, because that's my worry is like they're like being told, well, it's no interest, but it's like, well, but there's still fees.
Okay, so yes, I'm
There's-
going to explain you that.
Right.
I'm glad that you're asking. So, in terms, they can't ask for interest, right? So they're not.
Right.
And people say like, oh, but it's just called profit, but it's basically the interest because it's very similar to interest
Right.
rate, right? So that's
Right.
where people come. But the difference is basically that. They have to charge something, right? So there's big scholars out there who try to help to invent this system, right? And like, what is right, what is wrong? What do you think we could use as approachable? They said that you use something that is used as a measurement in this industry, and that's the interest rate. So they're measuring it with like apples to apples, basically. They looked for something, what is, a car being sold in this community, So that's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. So we base it like the terms on the interest.
Yes.
But we are not, and I have to be honest, a lot of times it's not more affordable. Like it's always a little bit higher because there's so many more hurdles that they have to
Right.
go through.
That was
creating
my
a
thought.
policy. Yes.
Yeah.
So people will say like, hey, I want to, go Islamic financing, but it's so much more expensive. You have to make them aware that, you choose that because of a religious
you're
belief,
religious, yep.
which I totally respect and accept. But then you also have to understand that this is not going to be the most competitive solution for you.
Correct.
So, but if they go in and you set that expectation as a realtor already too, right? So they know. They're not going to feel like, oh, you're tricked. Or they're not going to be like, you know what? I feel like they're kind of, conning you, right? Like, because
Right.
you don't know what
Right.
what it is. And then you're like, I have a better lender, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, thinking about my religious beliefs or anybody's religious beliefs, I'm sure they're going to outweigh any sort of financial, like, oh, I have to pay a little bit more. If I got to pay a little bit more to get into heaven or something, I'm okay with that.
that peace that you're feeling.
You know what I mean? And
Yes.
and so I think our job as realtors is to make sure that they're aware of their choice being a little bit more expensive, but to encourage them to follow their
Yes.
beliefs, right?
And that's really important to me, regardless of what you're approaching or trying to aim. If I know your goal, and I'm very, that's one of the things I really pride myself with, and that we also really heavily do at Engel Volkers. We go in and we have that consultation. We don't just go in on the field and, and luckily now it's not possible because you have to sign contracts, right?
Right, right.
So, but I ask a lot of questions, also the questions that a lot of people don't want to ask, because I know the cultural backgrounds. A lot of times questions like, are you legally married? Because you'd be surprised that some people
Legally or
aren't
culturally.
Yes.
I say that all the time.
So those are the things.
Yeah.
Are you, like, oh, we want a divorce, but we are not legally married, so he doesn't. Okay, like what people don't, because they're hesitant or they don't know, right? Like how
Right.
many generations are going to live in that house? What is going to, why don't you want this and that? Like I ask
Right.
really detailed because
The
of the backgrounds.
east facing versus west, isn't that a thing with the Muslim
So
culture?
yes and no, not everyone. I mean,
The
everyone here.
feng shui type of
Well, here, to be honest, and it goes broad
Yeah.
between everyone. Everyone just wants light in their house, right?
Yeah,
That's
right.
like south-facing.
natural light. That's all we want.
Because we're in Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
Like we need
and
vitamin
we have
D.
no light for the next 6
Exactly.
months.
I think that's not really depending on. So that's the other thing. One other thing why I am so good with that is I also don't judge them if they don't make that Islamic decision.
Okay.
So sometimes people say like, hey, I love that, but I can't do it right now. I can't finance it. I cannot, afford it.
Right.
So I'm gonna be the last person to judge you for your decision, right?
Right.
So, and I want to tell them. But if you tell me I want Islamic financing, I will also tell you then, like this is the option, and everything else you have to vet out yourself.
Yes.
Not all of them are.
Right.
And this is where it gets me actually the most, to be honest, because in the end of the day, we just want to protect them and guide them to the right direction, whatever brings them peace, right?
Yeah.
Like it's whatever they want.
It's just presenting options, letting like
Options
whenever
you trust, though, right? Yes.
right.
Yeah.
But like whenever I run a real estate team and I deal with a lot of my team members that come across situations where they don't have experience with. And they're just like, they just get so wrapped up, and their clients sometimes get upset and all that stuff. And they're like, how do I solve it? I'm like, you just present their options. And you explain each one thoroughly, and then ask them what they'd like to do.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how that's not like our first option. Like we like to I don't know, give our opinion a lot and defend what we said. I'm just like, yes, I always tell my clients, I'm like, I'm going to give you your options, and then I'm going to give you my opinion. At the end of the day, you can do whatever you'd like to do, and I will work for you whichever way we go. Every strategy has a
Unless it's
benefit, unless it's illegal. But every strategy has like a benefit, right? There's just because somebody says, well, I want to do it this way, it doesn't mean they're completely wrong. There's probably some good there. So I just think that when you tie it back to providing an experience to the Muslim culture, it's the same thing. You just have to be educated enough to thoroughly explain their options.
Yes.
Which is where someone like you comes in, where next time I come across a Muslim buyer or seller, I might be calling you or texting you and be like, hey, what do I need to know?
Exactly, Tyler, this is a really great spot to mention something. I want to be known for for you to reach out to me. I'm not here. I don't want to take I can't even serve all of them. I have a lot of clients there, so I can't really complain or anything. I'm not here. I'm really trying to approach you that, I can be from help, right? So I have a colleague, and she came to me and she said like, hey, I have this Muslim investor, and we kind of broke it off in a really bad term right now because they chose whatever decision they made, and they thought I was with them because something went south. Okay, so how can I show them that they can trust me? What is a token of appreciation? That they can trust me.
Right.
And I helped her to create that message. That's a little bit more with the background knowing of the religion, right?
Yeah.
And she is heavily religious too, so it has a lot of base common ground too.
Yeah.
And it's authentic, and I knew. And then what can I send them as a gift card? If you
what's an appropriate?
Yes, what is appropriate?
Gift
What
card.
is don't choose something where that the whole the community is boycotting something. That
Right.
would not be really smart.
Yep.
But just do your research. I mean,
What's a gift card you shouldn't send?
probably right now, to be honest, Starbucks. Don't do Starbucks.
Don't do why? I don't know.
Because of all the world politics going on right now, it's a big boycotted brand.
See, I would have screwed that up probably. Although I would have sent Caribou, to be honest. Let's be real.
Yes, so Caribou would have been a better choice. But if you know that, why wouldn't you choose something that that they're crazy about? You don't want to just send them.
What's like the best gift card?
Yeah, you want to send something that they are actually excited about. They're like.
Crumble cookies?
Crumble cookies is really loved, to be honest. It is definitely. With no one, you can go wrong with crumble cookies.
If someone doesn't
like crumble cookies, you don't want them.
I don't want to work with them.
Exactly. Seriously, there should be boundaries. But one of the.
I'm here to deliver a great experience. Unless you don't like crumble cookies, then you can screw off.
Go. I'm sorry. I have the same morals.
I don't care about your religious background. If you don't like crumble cookies, get out.
So.
We just lost our only follower.
I know. So one really cool thing that I can give you as advice is, for example, Kamaria. Have you heard of Kamaria? It's a Yemeni shop.
It's a what?
Yemeni coffee shop.
I have not.
You see, I mean, first of all, I would recommend you to just go yourself there, because going in there...
It's a Yemeni?
It's a Yemeni coffee shop. It's actually a big chain, and it's finally here in Minnesota too. And it's really cool just going in there, because you can see how diverse the whole the people are going in there. It's like it's an explosion of diversity and
a melting
colors.
pot.
Yes,
yeah.
It's just like what America's actually founded on.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful to go in there.
I would be interested in trying Yemen coffee.
You should really, really go there.
I wonder if it'll mess me up. Is it?
I mean, it depends on. They have everything. They have really standard stuff too. That
I take a sip and I just
cinnamon latte or something.
I would definitely choose a cold press with
pumpkin
caramel and
spice.
vanilla. No, I'm not doing pumpkin spice. Come on.
Yes.
But I'm definitely having flavor.
They have. I would probably go easy in there. First, try something that you can pronounce, and then.
A coffee.
Yes.
Just
and then maybe start getting more adventurous. And I really, I would really encourage people just generally to go into those places with your kids. Go with your kids and let them try different things.
Yeah.
So that they are, exposed to different things.
Yeah.
And they know, and they're not fearing things because they've never seen it in their whole.
Get out of our Blaine bubble.
Yes.
It's amazing. My wife will gladly admit that she lives in a Blaine bubble, and it's there's so many amazing places outside of this little area that anytime we go, even go to Minneapolis, which we don't love going to Minneapolis in general. It's just not our vibe. But the restaurants are just like, oh,
I mean,
they're
come
so
on.
much better.
America has a lot of great things,
Yeah.
but food is not one of them, you know. So,
Probably, I mean, I didn't live in Germany.
yes. No, Germany, to be honest, no. But they are melting pots. They have Italians. They have the Turkish people. They
I'm
have
like
all
a
kind
quarter
of cultures.
German, so I think you and I would probably like a lot of the same foods.
I don't think so because you tried? I eat Turkish food a lot of times.
Oh.
Have you ever tried Turkish food?
No.
Once you go, you can never go back. Just so you know. So
My,
don't even try it. Don't even go there.
My uncle my aunt married my uncle Mike, and oh my gosh, now I don't even remember where he's from. He's from
Middle Eastern country.
Yes.
Yes.
And they have lots of different foods at like Christmas and stuff.
It's kind of sad that you don't know because you're.
I know. I
time
should.
you
I
should
don't want to get it wrong. I think I could guess, but I don't want to get it wrong.
What was the guess?
I think he's Iranian.
It's gonna kill you.
I'm sorry. I can't remember. What do they speak? Oh gosh, I'm like butchering all this. Whatever. My point
Persian,
is,
probably. Does he speak Persian?
maybe.
Yeah, me. Oh God.
My point is like they bust out some different foods at holidays, and it's always so good. Like I'm always like, what is this?
You know, it's so funny that you say that. My kids watch YouTube all the time, which is probably terrible, you know, but I'm just trying to survive sometimes. And
Gotta sometimes bring in the digital
Yes.
babysitter. I get it.
yesterday we watched something where they were talking about military food and how it changed in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and 90s and stuff. And then it was all packaged and when, you know, certain things came. And it turned out to be, when we watched it, like the ones that had the best ranking was in the 70s. Do you know why? Because that's when they went to Vietnam. That's when they got introduced to Vietnamese food. And that's when they approached, you know, and everyone's like, this has got the best rating.
Yeah.
Because you really need that. You
Yeah.
really, like, people don't understand that they really need spice in their foods.
Yeah. Yeah. We are wimps here in America. That's for
Yeah.
sure. I'll try some like somewhat spicy food.
But I'm not just talking about spice in general, spicy, also like different, like smoked paprika and all the other things that really.
What about curry? Do you like curry?
I like curry, yes. Like
I had-
cumin. You know how great
Yeah.
cumin
Yeah.
tastes in meat, actually?
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things you can actually just.
I worked with a person at Walgreens, and she's like, I'm bringing in my homemade curry. And I was like, I'm not interested. You know, it's probably too spicy. She's like, just try it. I'm like, whatever. And like, it was incredible. It looks disgusting. It
Yeah.
looks like
Yeah.
diarrhea.
So,
It
but
looks bad. It tastes great.
But that's exactly what kids always judge our food with too, right? Remember that you're acting like a toddler.
I was going to say, you're calling me a child. You're right, because I last night had a PB&J
Yeah,
for dinner. That's what I do.
it is what it is.
It is what it is. But okay, let's get back on track. So what else? So, you know, I think we had a really good discussion about like in what ways do you feel the Muslim culture is maybe being underserved or the experience isn't being provided to them? Is there anything else like jumps out to you that like us as a coercive unit as realtors could be doing better or should know more about?
I think just generally having a little bit more knowledge, you know, not sounding or looking because one thing that I really love, especially in Minnesota, people are really open for new things and they are very respectful, but they're not necessarily here and just, you know, like go and do it themselves, right?
Right.
So I love that people are willing to learn things and add that value and all that. You know, I would just encourage people to just get that resource, you know, and be able to. I mean, what kind of added value do you have if you say like, hey, I know exactly, you know, those are my resources.
Right.
I've had clients, or I have some people in my network that said they vetted them out and they only trust these and these people. I mean, it already takes that trust level to another level, right? So, and this is what we're trying to do with every approach, right?
Right.
So, and this is just that niche. There's so many people are underserved, never really get that red carpet service, even in their own community, which really, really upsets me.
Right.
Because they have just so many applications. There's just so many clients that they don't have to bring up the service. And that's where I come in, you know, to just be disruptive.
Yeah,
You know,
you're
just
the disruptor.
Yeah, disruptor, to just like tell them, hey, I'm here. I'm going to bring up, you know, a red carpet service to all
Yeah.
of them. And now people have to, you know, be more competitive about it, even though
Yeah.
not really competition. I just want them to serve the clients better.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you find that when you talk with a lot of your clients that have maybe worked with a different realtor in the past that they feel it was like not a very good experience? They weren't
Every
told anything?
single
Because
time.
that's my
Every
experience, and
single
like
time.
I'm trying to be very cautious about how I say this. I don't work with many Muslim cultures or Indian cultures or other, Middle Eastern cultures, but I do from time to time. And almost every time I do, they talk about how the previous experience, like the realtor
Sucked, right?
literally told them nothing and they felt very
100%.
duped almost.
Yes.
And again, that just could be a coincidence
No.
for me.
100% agree, and that's exactly the part where I'm getting to. And I think that's also a little bit a cultural problem where I feel like they don't feel the need to explain things. They
Right.
just think like, you trust me, I
Yeah.
do this for you, and
Yeah.
that's it.
I'm
They
the
don't-
same as you. Just
Yes,
trust
let me
me.
just don't let me.
Yeah.
And we all know that for family friends, you have to work double as hard, right?
Yeah, you cannot take them for granted.
No.
You cannot.
So when you come out there and just give them their option and show them that you have that experience, that you have that knowledge, and that it's actually up to them.
Yeah.
It's not you
Yeah.
steering the car, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can give you my opinion,
Yep.
right? But in the end of the day, it's whatever you want to do, and those are your options and your resources, right? So,
Good to know.
and that's really something. It's 100%, and that's one other thing which I actually love, because once they come to me, there's no way they're going to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
In both sides, right? Like, I've
Right.
never the issue where people are like, "Oh, I don't want to show you this because I'm scared that someone's going to take my client and stuff." I don't have that,
Yeah.
because it takes a lot for them to come to me and to win that trust level they have built up in this community for
Right.
many years now.
Right.
It's not just going to go away like
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah. Well, it's good to know. I mean, there's obviously bad realtors
everywhere.
in every culture. But I
I don't think they're bad realtors. I think just like, if you don't have that need because it has never been asked, or you didn't have anything to compare it to, right?
Right.
Or people only buy a house once.
That's what I say all the
yeah.
time. I'm like, unfortunately,
Yeah.
like I tell this to all my clients. So if they're like maybe thinking about going with a discount realtor or something, and it's true, I'm just like, the problem is, and you may be right, maybe it's going to be just fine, but the problem is you're not going to know if you're having a bad experience.
Exactly.
Probably maybe at all, because you don't sell enough houses to even realize it. But you definitely, even if you do catch on, you won't know until it's too late and it's like the end and you're just kind of stuck anyways. So that's the problem, that people only transact a few, what I think the average is 5 times in their lifetime. It's like, you don't know what a good realtor, a bad realtor looks like. And I know you say there's no bad realtors, but there are.
No, there is, like, but I was talking more in the community that I'm
Gotcha.
surfing in. I don't think they're generally just bad, but I just think there's no competition, and they
Right.
never really had to step up to the plate, right?
Yeah.
If you're just so used that you just stand at the cashier and just like type, you never have to explain the product
Yeah.
or whatsoever. Why would you?
I get it, because I just said this to Kayla, my COO, yesterday. I turned in 3 listings in the last like week, and all 3. Normally, I do like a really thorough, deep dive analysis, report all the stuff. All 3 are past clients, or one was a referral that, like, she gave me the keys to her house the day I met her because she's living out of state. Either way, all 3 I knew I'm going to get their business because I've either worked with them or it was, and I found myself, I did a deep dive for myself, but how I presented it to them was totally different. It was just like a quick email or a quick text being like, here's what I think we
But
should
you
list
already
at.
put that work in right before.
But my point is, and I don't think I did, I think they're going to get the same great experience, but I understand where people, they're kind of comfortable. Like I felt comfortable. And instead of going through the hour-long Zoom, the bells and whistles presentation, all the things I'm going to do for them, I just was like, hey, here's what I think after looking that we should list for, and here's what it costs, and here's the net sheet, and what do you think? And I think that's fine if your realtor has good intentions and they actually do their research. But I think what you're alluding to is people get comfortable because it's their culture, and they have so many people that need their help because they're being neglected by people like myself that just don't know how to help them maybe. And so they just get comfortable to almost where it becomes a burden or like a negative, where it's like, I just don't explain it anymore because nobody seems to care. They just want to, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I always find myself like over explaining stuff, and I'm like, hey, tell me when to stop talking, because I don't want to I don't want to not tell you something, but I also don't want to waste your time.
And it's funny because I do that a lot too, and it's really the opposite of what the community is used to, right?
Totally.
So
Yeah.
one other really interesting thing is it's very man-dominated too, again, right? Like a lot of other things. And me coming in there, people are like, oh, but, man, like, why? Like, why would you do? Because
You're saying in the Muslim culture?
in the Muslim culture, right?
For sure.
So, but one thing that a lot of people also don't know is like the woman makes a decision. In
Yes,
every
they do.
country, in every culture,
time.
in every
Just so you
religion.
know,
Exactly.
men out there that have wives or girlfriends and you think, I'm going to get a house and I'm going to do what I want, your wife's going to allow you to do that.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. Even if my wife does a great job of this, making me feel like I'm in charge. Like,
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's what we learned.
She's really, really good at it. And I still think I'm in
That's
charge
happy
to this
marriage,
day, but I
yes.
know I'm not.
Yes.
Because in a like this, she could be like, nope, that's not what we're doing. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, depending on when it has to be, right?
Right.
That's the smart part. So I think that approach too, where the woman just gets approached by me and I include her so much, right? Like, and I explain everything in detail. Imagine you're so used that people just over talk over you, right? Like, and not even address you or talk to you. I think that also makes a difference where they're like, oh, finally someone hears me, right?
It's
They see me,
crazy.
they talk to me. And they do that in the whole, like, it doesn't matter if it's an American or someone from the community, because one is fearful because they don't know. They just assume that this is how it's done. And then the other one's just like, oh, they're going to make the decision, so I'm going to approach the husband, right?
I have a couple clients that are Muslim and they have expressed to me a few times like they're more of like you, they're more of like the independent, strong female presence. That is, I think, a rarity. I'm guessing in that.
Not really.
Well,
That's the
maybe I
that's
shouldn't say
the
rarity.
That's the misconception, though, right?
But okay, would you say that that's not traditionally what it
No,
was?
it actually that's the fun part, right?
Okay.
Like we have that stereotype about Muslim women being, oppressed and all that, right? They don't have their opinion.
Yeah.
But it's actually the opposite.
Okay.
Right? It's literally the opposite. Like if that woman doesn't like something, it's not going to happen, right?
But okay, then these people I'm thinking of,
Yeah.
why are they? Is it maybe the men are like wanting to have the power or something?
No,
Like
I
because
think it's more of a protective perspective to approach the man.
these people I'm thinking of, they're like, yeah, I don't want to involve some men in my life with this right now
Yeah.
because if they know about it, they're not going to want me to do it because it's almost like they want to be the ones that provide.
Yes, so that's one culture.
You know what I'm getting
but
at?
that's really cultural in terms of providing, right? Like,
Right.
and there's going to be differences too, like it is there too. I'm not going to be approachable for everyone either, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes people are going to think like, oh, I don't think a woman should be doing this, right? But that can come from any culture or any background, right? Like,
Yep.
I don't want a woman, helping with this big decision whatsoever. I'm not
Right.
going to be the right one for that,
Right.
right? There's people who don't barely speak any English. And I learned 5, but that's still not going to be one of them that I speak. And I know I can't serve that client really well, even though I want to help them. And one thing I don't do is I never ask about the price point because then people are like, oh, maybe I can help, let me learn another language or something.
Right.
So I don't do that. I refer them literally out to people where I know they're going to get the service that they actually, deserve.
Right.
Right.
Still waiting for my referral.
Yeah.
But that's okay. One of these days. I'm just kidding. She's like, I don't know if there's anybody that needs service like you provide, Tyler.
Tyler, I mean, you do everything in such a high standard, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but
Oh, man. Tell me, okay, just like changing gears for a second here. Tell me, so we're a good chunk of the year into the new rules around the NAR settlement. What are your thoughts on everything so far? Like just in general, like, do you think it's good, bad, indifferent?
You know what? I mean, we just established that most people only buy 1, 2, 3 times in a lifetime, sometimes maybe even, right? All of that is not really necessarily important. You do you do exactly what you need to do. And I am, as I said, I'm born and raised in Germany, right? Like
Yeah.
following rules is important to me.
Yes.
Like we don't, follow the rules. We make the rules and then we follow them,
Yeah.
right? So there's no jaywalking or anything else. And it's literally embedded into me, which is now I see it's actually a strength, right? Like I'm at an appointment. If I'm not 5 minutes early, I'm late, right?
Yep.
Like all of those things are, again, different than a community, but it has to be that way to be taken serious, to be taken professional, right? Like, and all of the things. To be honest, the community I'm working with, they don't really have a lot of knowledge, and they're not really, maybe one or two questions I had about it, right? But it wasn't really necessarily, what is the NAR? I always tell people, and I always use common sense, and I always go back to Islam is common sense, right?
Right.
So you have a buyer's agent. The buyer's agent does want to be paid. They do not work for free, right? So that would make no sense. Where does the payment come from? I am very open and transparent. I think that's one of the most important things too that a lot of people skip.
Have to be.
And I think that's just going to come back to you, bite in your butt, seriously, like in all terms, right? Like also with the client, because that also looks like, that's what they always call like hidden fee. I didn't know there's so many hidden fees.
I know.
It's because they didn't explain or be transparent with all of them, right?
Yeah, I think if you know the fees are going to come up eventually, especially now because it's on the purchase agreement, right? Like you have to write it in there. It's like, why would you hide that? Now, I personally, I've been doing this for a little longer than you, and I would say that the way that I was trained, like, it was just pretty much like buyers are not going to pay their agent. Like, it just wasn't even a thing. It was just always the sellers are paying. It just, and honestly, we've been tracking this so far. It's 99 point whatever percent of the time they still are. The buyers aren't paying their agent anything. But it's like that was always just kind of assumed. But then when I think back to it, it was like it was such a dumb way that we did it. Like I really actually enjoy the new way we do this. I think it's way better. I think
more transparent too. And
way more transparent.
What if they really don't pay you? What are you gonna do?
Right. Yeah, you got to figure it out. And I think it also qualifies people more. Like meaning if they're not serious about buying or selling, like, and you bring this up, they're just gonna go back to wherever they're from, like wherever they're living, and not bother you with and waste your time with stuff. Where because it's like, hey, there's a chance you might pay me. I charge 3%. Like here's what all the things we do for it. More than likely we're gonna get the sellers to pay for it. But if not, do you have this money? And if they're like, no, it's like, well, you might want to not buy a house right now because you never know. I think it just makes it way easier to talk to people about it.
It comes with experience, and once you're in the industry, you've done more. I remember it's not that long ago for me, right? Like where you are hesitant, like, oh my God, I'm going to lose that one client that I really worked so hard for. But in the end of the day, people also have to understand that, and it's in all terms. Like if they don't want to do what you tell them, this is the rules, then you probably dodged a bullet, right?
Totally.
Because if they already start negotiating with that 3%, they don't want to pay for that, right? And then they come to him, it's like, oh, actually, I want you to pay for this, and stuff like that.
Right.
It's just going to be a headache. It's like all of my experiences so far, 99% of it, it's been extremely amazing. And I think I put that back to setting the expectations right.
It's all about setting expectations.
And really just like saying it from the beginning, like being transparent from the beginning so we don't have any miscommunication. Communication is key, seriously.
Yeah, it always comes back to setting expectations, communicate, and be transparent every time. Whenever we're talking about like how to run a good business and not deal with people that maybe you shouldn't have been dealing with, it's always those things. And it's just like my advice to anybody that's a realtor that's watching, listening, it's like just go home and refine your craft. Like just practice. Just keep practicing in front of the mirror, practice with your spouse, practice with your dog. One of my team members practiced with her dog. Like you just, because if you can explain it in a way that you thoroughly, wholeheartedly believe it and trust that process, that's going to convey to your clients, and they're going to be like,
they read your
it
language.
makes sense.
Yes,
but if you're kind of like, well, I don't want to work you up, but you might have to pay me. Like immediately their guards up.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like,
Especially if you start talking too much about it, right? You get
my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
one other thing, Tyler, I really wanted to mention that really fits very well. We had one transaction together, right? So one other thing that a lot of realtors also forget, right, is that communication part with the realtor, right?
Yeah.
Like having that repertoire with
Yeah.
each other, being honest, because in the end of the day, yes, you represent the seller, I represent the buyer, or the other way around. In the end of the day, though, we are a team, right? If I don't trust you, my client is going to know that I don't trust you,
Right.
right? So, and that is going to be like, oh, we're going to follow the legal law now. You have
Right.
one day, to do whatever
know.
it's written in the law, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't start doing that or being more, of a team player, also not like hiding things. I mean,
yeah.
the things I've recently seen, especially with disclosure, where I know the agent knew and they didn't disclose it, it's just so frustrating
I know.
and sad to me.
I know.
And I always tell my clients, like, yeah, I am your team, right? Like
Yep.
I try to, but at the same time, I will never lie to the other side, even
No.
if it's like a white lie. I don't.
Yeah, you can't.
It's that because once we lose that trust, and for you, it's that one transaction. I said, I'm going to be in this industry. If people know me and they know I've lied before, guess what? My next client's not going to get their offer accepted. Right?
I agree 100%. It's like, and I literally say that to agents when, especially in like multiple offer situations, and it's high stress, and they're like, "What else can we do?" And I'm always like, "Hey, I just want you to know, like, I want the same thing as you. I want, like, we all want the offer to get accepted. We want our clients to be happy. So there's no reason for me to not try to help you. I want to try to help you, but you also have to understand the situation you're in, which is." And if you're in multiple offer situations, you, the buyer's agent, are at a disadvantage. It is what it is. And as long as you communicate, behave professionally, and make it known that you share in that team mindset, you're going to win.
Yeah.
You're going to win. Because I'm going to be like, hey, here's what you got to do to win. Do it.
100%.
Like, you know what I mean? You know how
A
many
lot of people
times
don't realize that,
agents
though.
will be like, hey, Tyler, your offer is behind by a couple $1,000. Just come up and it's done. We want to work with you.
But you have already that network, right?
I know, but
relationship.
I think you can just convey that in a
100%.
there was one time I got a video text from an agent who I'd never met before. She was like driving. She's like, we just saw the house. We love it. I'm going to forward you a message from the buyers. And the buyers were on video in front of the house. And then it's just being overly communicative, being a joy to be around, and reassuring everybody, like, one,
Not playing games, right?
I'm dedicated to
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here. Let me know. I'll get it signed tonight. What do you need? I want this to work. Like, all those things matter because you can then take the energy that they've transferred to you, transferred onto your clients, in this scenario, the sellers, and just calmly be like, this person's been amazing. Like, this person's been incredible. I don't want to lose this offer. Like, so is it worth going back to the other offer, or should we just go with this person because I know that they're going to make this an enjoyable experience? And it works. It's
100%.
true.
Yes.
It's like, but agents, they get so like defensive. They're just like, I can't tell you things because I'm representing the buyers. Like, your job as the buyer's agent is to act in their best interests, which could be getting them this freaking house and not being a jackass.
Because one
Right?
thing too is that people forget, like, there might be something going wrong from your side.
Right.
Like, you want them to be lenient too, right? So just be fair. Just be fair,
Yeah.
be honest, be communicative.
Present options like we talked about before.
Exactly.
That's all it comes down to. Present options, and
100% agree.
negotiations do not have to become emotional whatsoever.
Yeah, but I mean, that's something too that you learn, especially as a woman. I can tell you, like, I ask my husband, right? Bahti, he's always like, especially at the beginning, he's like, is this going to be in every transaction you're going to have now? I was like, yeah, because I really feel like, especially I have so many first-time buyers. I have first-generation home buyers.
Yeah.
Like, they're changing the whole trajectory for the whole generations to come. It's a huge, pleasure, but it also comes with a lot of responsibility for
Pressure.
you and pressure.
Lots
right?
of pressure. Yep.
So if that sometimes goes wrong, like, you are emotionally involved in that. And at
Yeah.
the end of the day, after kind of trying to prevent, I don't know how many house fires, right? Like, it's hard sometimes.
you're always going to be emotional, no matter you're never going to take it out, because if you take it out of the entire process, then it's probably not the right job for you, the right career, because we love helping people, we love solving problems, right?
Yeah.
But like I would say to anybody that is dealing with a tough transaction, it's like you just make sure you get as much information as possible from wherever you need to get it from, whether it's Muslim financing, whatever the situation is, right? And then you just present the options to your client, and ultimately they decide. As long as they have all the information and they know what your thought is on the ramifications from their decisions, then you can't wear that emotion if it goes poorly, because they've made that choice, and that's okay. There were so many times I would tell my clients, like, hey, we're not winning right now. I know that for a fact. Okay. I've been told we're probably between $5,000 and $10,000 low. Do you want to lose this house over $50 a month? Because we could easily go up. You're qualified. Do you want to lose over $50 a month? And they're like, yeah, I think so. I don't want it at 50. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. I just want to confirm, like the house that you were in the kitchen, like planning all these things with your family. And like, and I'm just like, I'm not trying to pressure you to buy it, but I want you to think, because right now you're emotional.
Yes.
Because this is like after going back and forth, 5 times. They've come up 40,000 and they're like, another 5. I'm like, we can say no. I'm just, it's $50 more. And actually, if it's 5,000, it's $25. I'm like, is it worth it? And I've had clients literally over $5 a month say no.
Yes.
And that's okay.
But that's what we call it, the offer of no regret, right?
Right.
Both ways.
At that point, it's like, hey, I just want to make sure you can sleep at night. That's literally like, I don't need you to buy this house.
That's going to reflect on you, right?
Yeah.
They make that emotional wrong decision.
They're going to wake up the next day and be like,
it's Tyler's fault.
well, yeah, because if you don't break it down that way, right? If you just say, yeah, they want you to come up $5,000, what do you want to do? Because that's what almost every other agent would say. And they're like, yeah, I'm not coming up 5. But if you sit down and you explain to them, it's $25 a month, looking at the comparables, we're still actually good on our value. There's no other houses on the market like this. We've been looking for 6 months. Do you really want to lose this, or do you want to just go forward? And then, you know what? During the inspection period, if you regret it, let's back out if that's what you ultimately want to do. But do you want to lose this opportunity over $25? And I bet you close more deals because you make people feel. And that's what, as us realtors, whether you're in the Muslim culture or just in general, you have to
Be more rational.
bring their emotions to the surface that are true. You're not manipulating them. Like, bring it to the surface.
You also make them understand. You speak more in their terms, right? Like, because that doesn't mean anything to them. Like, I always compare that to the McDonald's menu, right? Like, when I talk to a little kid like Hamza has no idea what things cost. Pokemon cards. Oh yeah, let's just buy another $50.
Just get more.
And then you tell them this would be 10 Happy Meals. And then I was like, "Ooh, okay, that is very expensive."
Yeah.
Right? So that's exactly what you're doing, and I love that approach. Yes, you have to really talk with their terms, right, for them to understand that and be less emotional about it.
Yeah.
But one thing that you're right too, though, is I think that comes also with experience, especially at the beginning. You're so emotional about everything.
Oh
you're
gosh,
trying to you didn't expect that you actually have to be proactively there to get the clients. You thought they're gonna fall on your lap, right? Now they're not. Now you have that one client, and now you don't want it to go south. So it's all really emotional.
Well, and then the deal falls apart because of something that was out of your control. I remember getting very frustrated a few times early on.
Yes.
Like, the loan officer did something or the other agent did something. And there's been a few times I've yelled at people, and rightfully so, in those situations. But there was times I would hang up the phone and be so just destroyed. You know what I mean?
That's actually something that I don't have happen a lot.
Yeah.
Because we, especially with the Islamic or Muslim background, that's why I love having the clients, because they have the same approach. It's even the bad things happen for a reason.
Right.
Like, even that one day that it got extended, there is a reason. Even that 1 hour you were delayed, there is a reason. Maybe you would have gone into a car crash or whatsoever, right? So we really have that approach that even in the bad things, there's good things. And what I also love is and that's something my husband told me, the emotional, approach, and oh my God, now there's this. I had an AC unit being stolen on day of closing. We're sitting at the closing table, right?
Oh my gosh.
All the experience that you get at some point, but even even that emotional part, that's actually the best part. That's when you know you're growing.
Who's stealing an AC unit?
Well, everything happens. I'm telling you, there's nothing that
That's
surprises
crazy.
me anymore, right? Right.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
that
hear ya.
pain is actually growing pains. You're
Totally.
growing.
Yeah.
Growing.
Because I don't experience that
Yes.
pain anymore. Honestly, I don't.
Yes.
And so you do go through it.
You have no emotions left.
I don't. Yeah, I'm a robot. I know. I just have that sense of calm over me, and I do say that to everybody. I'm like, real estate is one of those things that everything happens for a reason, and it literally does. Like
It
every
only sucks,
time,
though, if it's a team that you told them, you know, like, or it's a team that you didn't play with before and you knew it's going to happen that way.
Right.
So that's when it gets frustrating, though, and that's why people sometimes, we don't get a benefit from the people that we recommend to you, right?
Right.
We shouldn't be. That's illegal, right?
Right.
But we know why we choose them, because we know that they, first of all, have the same morals that we have.
Right.
That's really important to me.
Right.
And then the other thing is, like, you know, that's an MVP. If they don't do their job, I can't do their job
Yeah.
too, right? I do my job good, and
Yeah.
you can rely on that, and I want to rely on you, right?
Yeah.
So, yes.
the one thing I will say though, because you said, you know, it's like in the Muslim culture, it's okay. Like, hey, if it doesn't go well, there's a reason, and I agree. But here's my one little caveat that I get a little annoyed by with some
Yes.
people is the cliche, I'll give it up to God type of answer. Like where, okay, let's use the scenario of I've been told by the listing agent that, Dilek, your offer is not going to get accepted. You're my buyer in this situation, right? Your offer's not going to get accepted. We're $5,000 below. If we come up, we're going to win. That's okay. Okay. But the only thing that drives me crazy is when people give me that answer of, well, it's in God's hands.
If it's meant for me, it's
And I'm like, okay, so I'm religious. I'm wearing my
Yeah.
shirt right now. I
No,
got
I like-
baptized
yes,
in.
yes.
I believe wholeheartedly in all that. But I will say, God is not going to win that deal for you.
exactly.
Okay, so
I don't
like,
think that's a battlefield that God gave you.
God ain't got time for your $5,000 negotiation.
Yep.
So sometimes people, they get too much in their head about if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And I'm like, but you got to fight.
Yes.
It's meant to, like,
You can also use your brain, right? Like, you can use all the resources.
Right.
Like, if you do not use...
I'm going to use that.
Yes, no,
I'm gonna, like, you can
seriously.
also use your brain.
You know, I actually...
But like, because
So
it's
that's the
delicate,
German
because like you don't want to,
Yes.
it's like, I'm like, yes,
And
yes.
I call my clients out. That happened before.
I
too.
do too.
Yeah.
But then like, I try to be as delicate as I can because I'm just like, I get it. Like, yes, let's give it up to God and all that type of stuff. However, we're not going to win. So like,
Tyler, I literally had a client who said, I'm not going to I'm going to ask for 30,000 less because if it's meant for me, it's going to happen.
right.
And then I said, yeah, but that's not going to happen because that would be really dumb from the other side unless there's literally no other
Yeah.
option.
It's not meant to be for that
So,
seller.
Yes, I always tell them, like, it also has to make some sense, right? It
Right.
cannot be completely
Yeah.
senseless. Why do you even put a seatbelt on then, right? So like, and they know. So
Right.
like, if it's really far off, if the reality is completely far, that's not the
I like that
solution.
analogy. Why do you put a seatbelt on?
Yes, don't put a seatbelt.
There's truth to that. If it's meant to be, you don't need to. Well, I want to wrap up with first off, like, thank you so much for enlightening me on some things, and I hope anybody that watched or listened is feeling that they can trust you for any of these types of
Very
questions.
welcome,
And for those of you that again haven't interacted with Dilek, I can wholeheartedly tell you, like, she's a great person to reach out to. She's absolutely one of the best, even with 4 years of experience, which doesn't really matter. Like you said, she's destined for greatness and is doing a wonderful job with her business and also the Muslim community. So, for what it's worth, you have my vote of confidence. If I have any questions moving forward that, transcend Islamic financing, 'cause that's my base level. If there's anything else, I mean, you're my first call, and I hope that the rest of the agents out there that see this are like, if I ever have any dumb question ever about it, they know that they can reach out to you, and you're not going to
Yes.
judge them, right?
100%. Sometimes also it helps to ask from the mentality of a little child, basically, right? So that's how I always see it. Because also sometimes people are so wrapped up in their cultural and religious thing that they think this is how it is, but it's actually not. But you don't know because you don't know, right?
Right.
But if I tell you or give you a different perspective, then it's going to ease up the whole situation, even for the other side that was so insistent in something.
Right.
Right. So I love helping, and it's just that I don't always see it with monetary benefits. I don't think that's not me. I'm authentic. I like helping because I know that mainly why I do that is because if my children ever need help, I want them to be able to approach anyone.
Right.
That's why I do this in this world. I want to leave it a little
Leading
bit
by
better.
example.
Yes.
Yep.
So.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you to anyone who did watch or listen. If you guys know anyone else that would like to be on the Level Up podcast, any amazing agents out there, whether it's they run a legitimate business or doing amazing things that no one else is doing, or they have a cause that they want to make sure that other people know about, please feel free to connect them with me. I'd be happy to feature them. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thanks.
Bye-bye.